Hey booktubers, Lisa here. As promised, I am wearing my cocktail attire because today we are talking about The Great Gatsby by F Scott Fitzgerald. This book is a masterpiece. It really is a literary symbol for perfection. It would be difficult for me to imagine a work that is more intricate but perfectly woven together. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so let's go back to the beginning. We have two main characters in this book, Gatsby and we have Daisy. These are not just ordinary characters, they are extraordinary characters, and Fitzgerald lets us know that right away in the very first chapter. So let me share a little bit of that with you. Only Gatsby, the man who gives his name to this book, was exempt from my reaction. Gatsby, who represented everything for which I have an unaffected scorn. If personality is an unbroken series of successful gestures, then there was something gorgeous about him, some heightened sensitivity to the promises of life, as if he were related to one of those intricate machines that register earthquakes 10,000 miles away. This responsiveness had nothing to do with that flabby impressionability, which is dignified under the name of the creative temperament. It was an extraordinary gift for hope, a romantic readiness such as I have never found in any other person, in which it is not likely I shall ever find again. So we know right off the bat that Gatsby is not just 1 in 100. He's not rare, he's extraordinary. He's a once in a lifetime type of person. And then we have Daisy. Daisy, she has this voice that sounds like money. And you want to lean in, you want to catch every single word that she's saying because she's so engaging and intriguing. You don't want to miss a single word that she says. And when she sees you, she seems that you are the one person in the world she most wanted to see. That's how special she can make you feel. However, Daisy is married to a man named Tom Buchanan. And yet Gatsby is yearning for his long-lost love, Daisy. So Fitzgerald is kind of in a pickle here. How do you make Gatsby not seem like this terrible homewrecker? He has to come up with some type of a solution. And he does. Tom Buchanan has a mistress named Myrtle. And not only does he have a mistress, he's not discreet about this person at all. He has an apartment for her. He takes her to all these public places. For crying out loud, he even has the audacity to bring Nick, the narrator and also Daisy's cousin, to meet this mistress. Meanwhile, we have Gatsby. He's working away for 5 years and he's accumulating this incredible amount of wealth in order to try to win Daisy's love. He even purchases a house across the bay from her so that he can look out on his dock at the end and see her green light, which is just out of his reach. So Gatsby, he starts throwing these very incredible, lavish parties in the hopes that one day Daisy will show up at one of these parties and they'll meet by a chance encounter. However, Daisy never materializes. And Gatsby has to go to plan B, which is he discovers that Nick, as I mentioned earlier, is Daisy's cousin. So he asks Nick, can you please arrange this meeting? And of course he does. Daisy and Gatsby, they seem to pick off right where they left off 5 years earlier. So the summer progresses and Gatsby finally decides, you know what, it's time. It's time for you to tell Tom that you never loved him and that you're leaving him for me. And Gatsby's just about to, his dream is about to come true that he's waited for 5 years. The day finally comes, Daisy can't seem to get the words out. So Gatsby informs Tom, Daisy doesn't love you. She never did, and you're not gonna take care of her anymore. I'm gonna take care of her. Tom, he pleads to Daisy. He says, Daisy, you know, I go on these sprees, you know, his affairs, his mistresses, but I always come home to you, and I'll treat you better. And Daisy's not having it. She doesn't care. She says, I don't care. You're horrible. You caused this scandal with this other person in Chicago. They had to run us out of town. Nope, I'm going with Gatsby. So Tom takes a different tactic. He says, okay, well, that didn't work. I'm going to attack Gatsby. And he tells Daisy, you think he's this outstanding, respectable person? He's not. He's not the businessman that you think he is. He's a criminal. He's a bootlegger. Those drugstores that he told you that he owns, they actually sell alcohol as a side business. That's how he actually makes his money. He's just a lowly criminal. He's nothing. And then from that point on, Daisy never talks about going off with Gatsby. And in fact, by the end of this scene, Tom says, go along with Gatsby, drive back to our house in his car. He's no longer a threat. So Daisy and Gatsby, they start heading back to Daisy's house. Daisy's driving Gatsby's yellow car, and she hits Myrtle, which is Tom's mistress. She runs out into the road thinking that Tom's driving this car. Daisy does not even slow the car down. She just drives back home, drives off, and Nick arrives also at Daisy's home. He sees that Gatsby is waiting outside the house. And he says, you know, well, what's up? And Gatsby says, you know, old sport, that I'm gonna wait out here for Daisy. If Tom gives her any trouble about tonight, I'm gonna be right here. Nick's like, okay, you know, good luck. And he goes home. The following day, Myrtle's husband goes and he shoots Gatsby dead, thinking this man killed my wife. Not a single soul shows up for the funeral. Not a single party goer, not Daisy, because she has run out of town. She just left. And one of the very last pages of the book, it talks about Nick runs into Tom, you know, just a chance encounter, and he says that Gatsby, he had what was coming to him because he hit this person and he just drove off and left her there. This was such an important and critical part of the book. The first time I read it, 16-year-old me skipped it, and I lost the meaning and the significance of the book. And the relationship of Gatsby and Daisy. Daisy lied to Gatsby. She never told Tom I was the driver. She never said that. She let Gatsby take the fall. And she knew that Gatsby was sitting out there waiting for her all night long. And she knew she wasn't gonna tell Tom. So he was sitting out there all night long, and she did not care 2 cents to say, you know, it's not necessary, please go home. She didn't care about him at all. He was nothing to her. This book is easily a 5-star book. Fitzgerald has this way of writing that makes you really want to read more, and he sets the stage so well. The other thing that I really liked was the ending. It wasn't a cliche. It was completely believable that Daisy did not want to give up her grand life for a life of scandal. So the question is Gatsby great? He did lie. He was a liar. Initially, he told Nick, hey, I inherited all this wealth, and we know that that's not true. In fact, he was penniless. He was broke. He had no money. He was dirt poor. And he was completely self-made. This became apparent when Daisy and Tom, they come to one of his parties, and he's going around introducing them. This is Mrs. Buchanan and Mr. Buchanan, the polo player. In stark contrast to Gatsby, who has done so much, who did much more than just being born. He amassed this empire all on his own worth. But was Daisy great? What did Daisy do? Daisy, she has a nice voice, but beyond that, she doesn't have any accomplishments. Even Jordan Baker, she's good at golf, but Daisy, she, in my opinion, is no better than Tom. So I think a good question would be, where would Gatsby be at if he actually pursued someone who was also great, who was worthy, who was his equal, who was his partner, who, if he was searching for somebody who truly was extraordinary like himself? That was one of my thoughts. Daisy is also much more than just a character in the book. She is a symbol of Gatsby's dream. And if Gatsby were so great, why didn't he realize that oftentimes your dreams are so much better than reality? And we do see this when he's talking with Nick, and he was talking about, well, I want to go back 5 years, and we're going to go back, we're going to get married in her parents' house in Louisville. And Nick's telling Gatsby, you can't repeat the past. And he said, of course you can, old sport. So Gatsby is a little bit disconnected from reality. You know, personally, we've been there. Sometimes the dream is better than reality. When you're bored and you think of vacation and you think of so vividly of the water, of the sounds, the smells, of the salt, the sun on your face, you have these vivid memories. And even if you do go on that vacation, and the vacation is a week long and it's just, awesome, the best part about that vacation is the year that you spent thinking about it and how awesome it was going to be, and all those beautiful, beautiful memories. Because and you see this when Gatsby is trying to get Daisy to tell Tom that she never loved him. Daisy, who won't even speak up, says, that's not entirely true. In addition to reading the book, I also watched the movie. So I'll share with you my thoughts on what I thought about the movie adaptation of the book. First of all, Leonardo DiCaprio, he was Gatsby in the film. And I absolutely agree with that. If I could have picked anybody in the entire world to be Gatsby, I think Leonardo DiCaprio, Leo, he was the right choice. The other thing I thought that the movie did fantastically well, they did keep pretty close to the book, in all fairness. They did. They nailed the first scene with Daisy when they had the billowing curtains and she seems like floating and magical. I loved it. I thought, wow, this was almost straight out of my imagination. It was wonderful. Now, there were some things I absolutely did not like about the movie at all. One, I thought some of the script was a little bit off. When Gatsby is telling Nick about his past, it was really rushed and it didn't feel right. The eye contact also seemed a little bit off. The eye contact between Gatsby or Leo and Daisy, it was completely off. This is a man, this is Gatsby. He's been thinking about Daisy every single day, possibly every single hour of his life for 5 years. And when you see somebody that your heart's desire, you're trying to memorize every detail about them. You're trying to think about how their hair falls, how the light is illuminating their face. You want to think of and see and memorize their face. You want to get lost in their eyes. You want to lock eyes and be just transfixed for that moment. But I didn't see that in the film. It did not come across. There were also 2 liberties that the film took that I did not like at all. And one was when it was about halfway through the film and Daisy says, "Oh, I wish we could run away," to Gatsby, and Gatsby was saying, "Oh, look at all this that I amassed for you so that we could be respectable and honest." That didn't happen in the book. And I don't think Daisy would have said that from the book. Daisy wasn't interested in living in scandal. She didn't want to run away. That wasn't Daisy. She didn't want that. She did not want that life. She wasn't into Gatsby like that. That wasn't her character. So that I really didn't like. That was one scene that they added to the movie. And then one that they subtracted that was in the book that wasn't in the movie was the scene that I mentioned earlier, which is where Tom and Nick meet up, and Tom still thinks, oh, it was Gatsby that, you know, killed Myrtle, when really it was his wife. And it just shows here Daisy is plotting to leave town while Gatsby's sitting out there with the dream that she's gonna run out at any second and he needs to be there to protect her. And she doesn't care about him at all. That portion of the book was left out, so that was a little disappointing. However, if you really like the movie, and I thought it was a solid movie, I would definitely recommend reading the book. Honestly, if you read this book every single time, I think you could pick up something new because it's so intricate. There's so many things to think about that. And I didn't go into this, but I mean, one of the things that you could think about is that Tom killed Gatsby twice. Once when he killed the dream of Daisy, and then a second time when he told Myrtle's husband, oh yeah, that was Gatsby, and sent him over to finish him off. You know, and you can think about all the symbolism and the green light and the money and all these things. Really, I think you could read this book and pick something up every single time that you read this. Personally, I will definitely be reading this again. If you enjoy book reviews, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel, Old Sport. Until next time, I'm Lisa of Troy. Peace.